This week, we're going to look at somebody else, and it's an important person that I think actually has a lesson in it for all of us. But before we dive in, I want to tell you a little story. How many of you ever heard of a guy named Albert Einstein? Albert Einstein was traveling from Princeton on a train, and the conductor was coming down the aisle, and he's collecting all the tickets, and Einstein reached into his jacket to find his ticket, and he could not find it. He looked in his trouser pockets, couldn't find it there, and his briefcase wasn't there. He looked in the seat next to him, it wasn't there either. The conductor got to him and said, "Hey, Dr. Einstein, we know who you are. We know exactly who you are. Everyone knows who you are. I'm sure you bought a ticket. Don't worry about it." It wasn't on the LIRR, I can tell you that. The conductor then continued on his way, punching tickets, and as he gets to the end of the car, he turns around and sees Dr. Einstein is on his hands and knees looking for this ticket. The conductor rushes back to him and says, Dr. Einstein, don't worry. I know who you are. It's not a problem. You don't need a ticket." Once again, not the LIRR. Einstein says this, "Young man, I too know who I am. What I don't know is where I'm going." Now, the individual we're going to talk about today kind of reminds me of Dr. Einstein. There's a story in the Bible about a man named Abraham. Abraham, the great patriarch of our faith. It was promised that Abraham would be the father of many nations. That Abraham would have as many descendants as there are on the sand on the seashore or the stars in the sky. Impossible to count, but yet there is Abraham. Abraham was very interesting. I love this description in Hebrews 11. It says this, "It was by faith that Abraham obeyed God when God called him to leave home and go to another land that God would send him as an inheritance." Listen to this next line. "He went without knowing where he was going." Have you ever been asked by God to do something and you had no idea where you were going? Like, "Hey, I want you to do this." "Do what? Where? Huh? What?" I need everything spelled out. Now, unlike Noah was given a description of what to build and what was coming. Abraham, it was, "Hey, guess what? You're going somewhere. Shh, I'm not going to tell you. Just start walking." I mean, how many of you know I like heavy metal music? Does anybody know that? Hence the ripped up jeans today, right? I love heavy metal music. In fact, the heavier it is, the better it is for me. So I was thinking, I'm doing the research on Abraham this way. I'm like, man, I think there's a heavy metal song about Abraham. It's true. And I was like, wait, You want to hear it? Here's Abraham's theme song.
I don't know where I'm going.
Come on, you know it. Sing along.
Hanging on the promises and songs of yesterday. I've made up my mind. I ain't wasting no more time. Here I go again. Light 'em up, Tim.
Think about this.
Come on.
Is this not his song? I mean, Whitesnake sang this, "Here I go again." It's like, I don't know where I'm going. That's Abraham. God said, "Go," and he's like, "Sure." Now, I think about this. It seems to be the exact opposite of a hero today, doesn't it? How many of you like to follow someone who knows where they're going? Okay, you're all lying right now in church. Because there's nobody on the planet that says, "Hey, where are you going? I want to go with you." "I don't know where I'm going." "Sure, let's go." I mean, imagine, "Hey, Abraham, where are we going today?" I have no idea. God just told me to start walking, and I started going. Now, I'm not sure anybody would follow a person like that today. I've always been taught that leaders always know where they're going. After reading this, I think I've been taught wrong. Because I don't think leaders always know where they're going. We tell you we do. But there are times where like, hey, Mary, where are we going? I don't know, where are we going? Great, don't tell anybody else. I mean, here's Abraham. He doesn't know where he's going, but he does know that God's got something at the end of the destination. I don't know where it is specifically, but I know that I must obey God. I mean, I think people today are following people because they know where they're going instead of why they're going there. Too many people are more concerned with the where instead of the why. See, I can't forget the why because I think some of us put our why before our why after our where. I got to know the where. No, you got to know the why. Abraham knew his why. You know what his why was? God had a promise that I would be the father of many nations. He knew his why. He wasn't as concerned with the where. And that's what sets Abraham apart from many of the other goats in the Bible. Here's what what God actually told Abraham. Listen to this. Leave your native land and your relatives. You know what he's saying? Leave your comfort. And come into a land I will show you. Hey, where is that, God? I'll show you. Yeah, but God, I need to know, God. Can you just open up the hourglass a little bit so I can see where that is? And God said, no, I'm going to show you. Shh. How many of you would like that call from God? I just want you to quit your job today. Yeah, what's my next job, God? Trust me. Let's be honest. God said to you right now in this service at 11:23 in the morning, and he said to you, leave your job right now. Amen. Yes, God, I'm going. Most of us would be like, yeah, God, you got to give me the next step first. The next step first doesn't require faith. The first step, not knowing, requires faith. I gotta, you want me to, see, I think a lot of us get confused with the where first. Abraham was not consumed with the where. He knew his why. And at 75 years old, 75, he set out on a journey and he did not know where he was going. I think sometimes I feel like that at 50 almost. But at 75, he didn't know where he was going. Have you ever heard the expression, ready, set, go? How many ever heard that? Just raise your hand, make me feel like you're awake. All right, ready, set, go. I think it should be go, set, ready. Like literally, if God says go, should I say, I'm not ready yet? God wouldn't tell you go if you weren't ready. So here we are. Hey, God, I'm just ready, set, then I'll go. And God's like, no, it's go, set, ready. There's a point we have to end up accepting the reality that when God speaks, we ought to listen. He's better than E.F. Hutton. Nobody remembers that commercial, do you? See, I think too many people want the where, but if you know the where, that doesn't require as much faith. The why without the where is when faith comes in. Hey, man, where are you going? I don't know. It's great. How do you know when you get there? I don't know. I just know I'm going. Well, why are you doing it? Well, this guy named G.O.A.T, he said to me, just go. And I'm like, this is awesome, man. Well, do you feel any pressure? No, because I don't know what it's supposed to look like. Wait, but aren't you overwhelmed? No, this is great. Let's take that to us. Hey, I want you to go do this. No. I got my 4,000 square foot house. I got to make sure I can pay the mortgage payment. Should I step that one back? Because some of you got a little offended. I can feel it. You hear what I'm saying? Hey, you know what? Go on this mission trip. Which one, God? This year or next 20 years? Which one do you want me to go on? I think we can walk back. No, you got to go back to your why. You see, when God speaks and says go, most of us end up doing this. God, I need to know where I'm going. Let's be honest, real talk. I need to know where I'm going. No, you don't. I'm going to mess you all up today. Some of you know where you're going, and where is nowhere. Yeah, but this is what I'm doing this. I work and sleep and work and sleep and work and sleep and work. I know, and that where is nowhere. And God says, I've got a better promised land for you. You just have to go. And you're like, go where? Can you just a little, give me a little snippet of what that looks like? God says, no, that doesn't require faith. If you know where you're going, there's no faith necessary. But if you have no idea and you're like, hey, Todd, where are you heading? I don't know. When are you going to get there? Beats me. What do you got to do to get there? I don't know. He never told me. He just said start walking. How many would follow a leader like that? Most of us would say no way. Never follow a leader, but that's the leader Abraham was. Where are you going? I have no idea. But he kept walking until he found his promised land. Some of us would say, well, will God provide the money I need? Is God going to open opportunities for me? Here's what I know. If I try and figure out the where or the how, I'll never start walking in the first place. At some point, I simply have to say, God, I don't get it, but okay. I'm going to take that step, and I'm going to trust you in the process, because faith is starting the journey even when you don't know where the journey is going to take you. Where are you going? Well, I don't know where I've been. Yeah, but I know where I'm going. Listen, at the end of the day, our lives are a picture of not the where as much as the why did I start the journey. I think some of us have to go back in our relationship with God to our why. Why am I here? Why do I come to church? Why do I walk in the doors of a church in the middle of a pandemic where population mostly stays home from church? Why am I there? Am I there just to check it off? Or am I there because I want to have an encounter with Jesus? I got to know the why. So I want to give you really quick just 2 faith principles today. And the first is this. I've learned this, and it's true in my life. The more you know, the less likely you will go. Now, we look at Abraham and say, man, he knew. You think he really knew? You think he knew what he was going to go through? Do you think if Abraham knew what the journey to his promised land looked like, he would have said yes in the first place? What if he would have known that the moment he arrives in his promised land, there was going to be a famine? Oh, wait, God, but I need my rice and beans. I need my ropa vieja. No, do you think famine's coming? What about this? You think he would have went if he realized the Egyptians were going to capture his wife and then take her to Pharaoh? And Pharaoh's like, hey, Sarah. He has to fight several intense battles. He discovers on the journey his wife can't have children. So he marries Hagar, his servant, so they can have a child. Are you kidding me? This is like Maury Povich all over again. The king of Gerar actually takes Sarah, takes Abraham's wife, and wants her for himself. She must have been an attractive lady, don't you think? 2 men wanted another man's wife. He's faced with sacrificing his one and only son. You imagine if that was you? Imagine if God told you what you were going to do before your why. I think some of us, we got to go back to why. Abraham, here's what your promised land is going to look like. Oh, it gets better. Imagine. God tells him at 99 years old, Abraham, hey, I didn't tell you this because I know this, you would have said no, but I need you to circumcise yourself. It's a true story. God, you think you could have told me that before? You imagine God telling you, hey, listen, you're going to go to Church Unleashed, September 20th, 2020, and the pastor's going to ask all the men of the church, hey, guys, it's time for circumcision. Yes, Lord, I'm going to church. How many of you would have skipped that day? If God gives you all the details, it often leads us to deeper doubts. You can't always know where you're going. You can't always know every detail. I mean, see, you got to be able to say, God, I trust you even without the details. I'm going to walk even though I don't know where I'm going because I know my why. You're my why. And you told me to walk, and I'm just going to keep walking. I'm going to put one foot in front of the other, and I'm going to trust that as I walk, you're going to be there with me, and you'll get me to my where, and you'll get me to my what. But if I lose my why, the where doesn't matter. If I lose my why, the where does not matter. I remember my first position as a pastor was in a church, crazy church. Man, there's crazy people in the church. Not our church, but, well, there's some. But there's crazy people in the church as a whole. And I remember being in this board meeting. I was young. I was 23 years old. I remember being in this board meeting, and they wanted to dedicate the building to a deceased member of the church. Now, I don't believe in that. I don't believe the Bible teaches that. I believe the church is dedicated to the Lord and Him alone. And so I stood up and I said, hey, guys, listen. And I'm 23, and they're all 60 plus. And I'm looking like, hey, guys, I think this is not the right move for us. I said, the Bible teaches the tabernacle was dedicated to the Lord. I said, I think we're crossing the line. Well, one of the board members looked at me and said, son, you better get your shiitake mushrooms together. But he didn't say shiitake mushrooms. He only said the first 4 letters of shiitake. I was like, can you say that to a pastor? I'm new. I'm wet behind the ears. This is my first church. I called Dr. Opal Redden. I said, Dr. Redden, this is what happened in this board meeting. Why didn't you tell me it was going to be like this? You know what Dr. Redden's response to me? Todd, if we told you how ministry was, no one would go into it. Oh, but you get to preach in front of people. You get to inspire people. That's just Sunday. There's other things we experience and have to walk through. I couldn't believe it. I was like, why wouldn't you tell me? Because if I knew the what, I never would have responded to God's why. I never would have walked down that journey. 25 years I've been in ministry now, and I look back and say, man, I've been through a lot. I mean, you imagine if God told me when I first went into ministry, you know, your first church, they're going to cut your salary multiple times, and you're not even going to be able to afford the rent and the place you're staying at. Yeah, God, I'm in. Hey, you know, the first 6 years of being a pastor, you're going to be in poverty. Absolutely, oh yeah. I'm ready. Well, let's be real. If God told you everything, you'd be like, No. I grew up in poverty. I never wanted to go through poverty again. And my journey of purpose was started in poverty. Like the whole journey of my life. What? You know what, Todd, you're going to be falsely accused of things. Oh, every guy dreams of that. Bring it on. Other pastors are going to criticize you publicly and stab you in the back. Oh, this is exciting. God, why? Come on, tell me more. Tell me more about what my destiny looks like. Well, you know, you're going to start a church called Point Community Church at the time, now Church Unleashed, and you're going to start that church, and you're not going to take a salary for 17 months. Perfect. God, we just bought a house. I got it covered. And then 3 years into that journey, the church is going to be $42,000 in the hole. No problem, God. I got this. How many of you are thankful God doesn't always tell you everything? Because if he did, you might not take a step. Todd, you're going to be 3.5 years into the journey of the church, and you're going to be so overwhelmed that you're going to hit a wall, and you're going to have panic attacks that are going to debilitate you. You're not even going to want to leave your house. You're going to be afraid to drive your kids in the car. You're going to be afraid to be home with your kids alone because you're afraid I might go. I think if God told me that in the beginning, I'd be, yeah, God, bring it on! Panic attacks and all. I'm ready. Then you're going to be plagued with digestive issues and other health challenges your entire adult life. God? In the 25th year of you being a pastor, a global pandemic is going to sweep through the world. And you're going to reopen your church and nobody's coming back. I don't know where I'm going, but I sure know where I've been. What does he say in that song, the great theologian Whitesnake? I'm hanging on the promises of the songs of yesterday. Abraham was hanging on the promises as he's taking a step every day. What gets Mary and I through is not the where, and it's not the what, it's we have not lost our why. We know why we're here. We know why God's called us. Come on, it's great to preach. I love that. You can't pay me to preach. I do it for free. But pastoring? Are you kidding me? Slap me, somebody. Because there are some days I'm like, dear heaven, these are the people you gave me? How many more emails do I need to get? Pastor, we're going to give you $100 because your jeans have holes in it. Apparently you're still poor. Can't afford full jeans. I just wonder sometimes if I knew what I would have gone through, that I would have ever said yes in the first place. I think most people today, if God showed you a picture of life laid out, you would say, no way, Jose. Not going to happen. There's a reason why God doesn't show you your tomorrow, but he says, trust me with your tomorrow. Because if you knew what life would throw at you, most of us would be like, I just can't. I can't leave my house. See, when God called you, he never promised it would be easy. Come on now. God never promised it's going to be easy. He never promised every month you're going to be able to pay your bills. Because there's going to be some months where you're like, oh, dear God, how's this going to happen? But he did promise he'd be with you. And that's your why. No matter where Abraham went, who was with him? God was with him. No matter where you go or what you go through, who is with you? God is with you. If you're more concerned with your where, you will forget your why. I've got to always go back to my why. My job is not to make everybody happy. My job is not to always be happy. If I wanted to be happy and make everyone else happy, I would sell you ice cream. But that is not my job. My job is to preach the truth of Jesus Christ. And that sometimes comes as a price tag. There's times we have to stand up for what's right in a culture that's way wrong. Not always going to be liked, and I like to be liked. Anybody else? I like people to like me. And sometimes me and God have wrestling matches with what I'm going to preach. I'm like, God, seriously, you want me to say that? Because right now that could be really offensive right now to somebody. And he's like, don't forget your why. I didn't call you as much for the who or the where or the what. I called you for the why. You lose your why, you'll never have a who. You lose your why, you'll never get to your where. You lose your why, you'll never have any what. It all goes back to your who. So God called me, and he didn't show me every detail of my life. But now I look back, and in those difficult times, I look when God said, I'm going to send you down to Long Island. I'm like, no way. I'm an upstate guy. Come on, you all know that, right? I'm an upstate guy. There's things I like to do that, hey, it's Long Island. Love upstate. And I look back and say, man, it's going to be tough. Tough adjustments. Came down here. My first visit to Long Island, you know what I had? A 1982 black Mustang convertible, 5-speed. How'd I get that? A miracle. I came down here. Had this beautiful car, one of my dream cars. Dream car. I could light it up in first, second, and third. Fastest I ever went was 142 miles an hour. And I literally said, man, yeah. And then I come down here, and I trade in my Mustang, and Mary and I eventually get a minivan. You know what? The dream car you've always wanted. So great. But then you look at all those negatives, right? And then you remember your why. You're like, yeah, but when God sent me here, he sent me here and I met one of the most amazing women on the planet, Mary. He said, you're going to have some of this stuff, but I'm going to show you why I'm sending you there. You're not going to know it. And I remember one of the last sermons I preached upstate, I didn't say this before in the first service, but one of the last sermons I preached upstate New York, I was in this charismatic church. Anybody know any charismatic people? They're the people, they roll around on the ground. I was in this charismatic, this lady comes up to me. She goes, Pastor, I got a word for you. I'm like, oh, geez, here we go. She goes, God is sending you to Long Island to meet your wife. I'm like, 26. He could have done it already. Then when I met Mary, I'm like, that crazy charismatic lady was right. Never doubt the crazy charismatics. Just saying. I would have never had our 3 amazing kids, Malachi, Abigail, and Bethany. Now what we're doing is we're not showing them a what or a where or a who. We're showing them a why. Why we do this and why God's called us to it. I also believe this last. Faith is never seen in a no. It's always seen in a go. No, God. That ain't faith. At some point, your words have to move into actions. Because faith is what? You have to do something with it. I never heard God ever say this. Wow, what amazing faith. They said no to my will. Wow, look at that person. They were so bold. They said no to me. No, the people of great faith obeyed and complied with God no matter what it cost them. See, the word go in the Bible appears 1,542 times. The word stay, 62 times. I think some of us need our go again. Yeah, but you're going to stay. I'm going to wait on the Lord. And God's like, I was there yesterday, but I'm all the way here. Get your butt up and get over here with me. That's how God sometimes talks to me, I think. I'm like, yeah, but be still and know that I'm God. And some of us just use that as an excuse and laziness to actually do something. I'm just waiting on the Lord. And God's saying, I've been waiting on you, knucklehead. Get up here. You got to do something. Faith is not seen in a no. It's always seen in a go. And too often we make deals with God. Hey, God, if you do this, I need you to do this. And God's like, what do you think this is? You think this is a Wheel of Fortune? You think this is, make a deal with God? The only deal I make with God is I need him. And without him, I am lost forever without him. And without him, the only guarantee I would have is hell eternal. But with Jesus, I get life. Yeah, what's that life going to take you? I don't always know. Yes. It's exciting not to know. Because then when that day happens, you're like, awesome. Can't believe this happened. Hey, Jesus, I'll do that, but I need to check my bank account first. Can you fill it? Can you just have the IRS accidentally deposit $100K into my savings? Then I'll go. No, you'll go to jail. Have you ever tried to make a deal with God? I don't want to make a deal with God. I want to make a life with God. I want to make sure my life is fully surrendered to Him. There's a story in the Bible, kind of reminds me of Abraham in some ways. Jesus is having a conversation with a man. This man approaches Jesus and he asks, "Teacher, what good deed must I do to inherit eternal life?" Notice, what was his focus? Where? Not the why, that I need a Savior. Jesus basically answers with, obey the commands. The man says, I've done all of those. And here's Jesus' response. If you want to be perfect, go and sell all your possessions and give the money to the poor. Come on, sign us Long Islanders up. Let's go. Let it sink in for a second, right? Jesus, go and sell everything you have. Give the money to the poor and you'll have treasure in heaven. You're like, yeah, but God, treasure in heaven doesn't pay my mortgage. And then he says, then you can come and follow me. What he's saying is, lay aside all your security, lay aside all your wares in your house, and just the why. I'm just going to obey God. I'm just going to do what he's called me to do. And the next line in this story, I think, is one of the saddest in the Bible, to me at least. It says this, but when the young man heard this, he went away very sad, for he had many possessions. God said, hey, I will show you the best life possible, but you got to trust me enough to relinquish everything and just follow me. And the man said, that's too high a price tag to pay. I wonder how many of us are saying, man, it's too costly. That's too much. You imagine Abraham? He's like, all those things that cost him, all the things that he went through. And I'm sure at the end of it he said, God, but yet you have been faithful to me. God, yet you have stood by my side. God, yet you were there. I have not lost my why. I think some of us have lost our why. Why do you wake up in the morning? It is not to go to work. You wake up in the morning to declare the goodness and the grace of God. Why do you go to your job? Is it to provide for your family? That's a part of it, but the why is I get to honor Jesus in my occupation. I get to demonstrate to people who do not know Jesus that he still makes a difference in people's lives because he made a difference in my life. See, God said, you got to go, and this man said no. We can all justify our way out of God's divine protection, can't we? Come on now. God, I can't tithe because I got other bills to pay. Tithing is not a bill. It is a spiritual discipline. In fact, it is one of the most basic. And if we can't manage the most basic, we'll never inherit the major. We got to start with those. And I can't do it. My mother taught me this principle years and years ago. So I realized that you can't outgive God. You can't outgive God. And so for all of us, we got to be, man, if I don't tithe, you're not going to be able to pay your bills anyway because you're going to mismanage the rest. I can't go on that mission trip because I don't have the vacation time. I'm not going to help that homeless person because I don't know what they're going to do with my money, my money. I can't tell that coworker about Jesus because they might think I'm nuts. Trust me, they already think you're nuts anyway. Can't go to church. Got to wear a mask in church? I'm not going. You can't handle a mask in church, you'll never handle the persecution of the church. Faith is never seen in saying no to God. There's Stories in the Bible of people who said no to God, and you know what? That no became nothing. They did no thing for God with their no. I want to do something with God with my yes, even when I don't know where I'm going. See, I don't know where I'm going, but I'm sure know where I've been. I ain't wasting no more time was one of the other expressions, and that's I ain't wasting no more time. Reason why Abraham wouldn't waste time is because he knew his why. Were there moments where he lost his why? Yeah, there were some, but he got back to it. I think some of us need to get back to our why again. Why do you exist? Is it just to go to a 9-to-5 job and work, eat, play with your kids, get up next day, repeat? Or is it what I believe it is, to honor God with my life? Even when God says go and I don't know, I'm still going to go. Because if I go when I don't know, that's when I can grow. If I go when I don't know, that is when I can grow. I look at my life and I look, man, I don't know. Senior year of Bible college. My mother's diagnosed with cancer. You know what I did? I literally went home and took care of my mother. My other brothers left. They went to their ministry positions. You know what I did? I paused ministry. And I said, I'm going to go take care of Mom. I bathed my mother, fed my mother. After cancer, when she got hit with an infection, a staph infection, it was months and months. In the middle of that, I could have lost my wife. Why, God? No, I said, okay, God, you're doing something in me. You're preparing me. My mother survived cancer. I just wonder how many of us in the middle of our what, we have lost our why. I'm standing here today. Mary and I lead this church with an incredible staff. You know why? Because we know our why. These guys could go make bank somewhere else, trust me. But that wouldn't give them their why. That would give them income. I don't want income, I want outcome. And if our focus is always income, there'll never be outcome from our lives. At the end of our lives, Church Unleashed, I want the sum total of our lives to say, even when we didn't know where we were going, we went anyway, because God said go. I literally just took a step and said, God, I trust you. Today is your day to get your why back, to get your mojo back, and to stop whipping around the white towel and to start pull up your pants, stick your chest out and say, God, I'm willing to go. Would you close your eyes as we pray today?